I know in my garden, I've got my summer bedding still in containers. And although it's flowering like mad still, because it hasn't really been frosty enough, although some of you may have had frosts and it may be that those plants are going over, mine has definitely slowed down. And you get to the point where you think, actually, I need to plant my spring bulbs because they need to go in between really October, November, December latest. But definitely the daffodils should be going in October. Tulips can kind of wait a month or two, doesn't matter. But, you know, really you get to the point where you think the summer bedding's got to go, even if it's flowering. So what can you retrieve from your summer bedding and maybe be able to use it another year? Well, geraniums, or pelargoniums is their proper name, but bedding geraniums can be overwintered. It's always a risk overwintering things, but it's worth a try. So you can take them out of their pots, trim off any flower stems, any old dead leaves that are on them, trim back the roots a little bit so they're smaller in size. And then you can, if you've got a sunny windowsill, or maybe you've got a conservatory, you can pop them into smaller pots and just leave them on the windowsill. So they're sort of growing. You don't want it to be in a warm, hot room, but if it's a cool conservatory or a cool greenhouse, they would probably survive that. And you just leave them in some kind of potting compost. It doesn't really matter because they're not growing, so you're not worried about feeding them. And they'll carry on. If you don't have those conditions, then you can try doing, as I said, cutting back the flower stems, cutting back any old dead leaves, really reducing their size, reducing the size of the roots, shaking off the old compost. And you can either put them in paper bags or you can put them in a box and cover them up in a dark, dry, frost-free shed or attic, even if you've got an attic to put things in. And hopefully in the spring, you will take them out, repot them into proper multi-purpose compost, water them, and they may well come back to life. Now, they might not look beautiful at this point, but once they've come back to life, you can then take cuttings, softwood cuttings, and produce lovely new plants. So it's something to do instead of just throwing those geraniums away. Often other things like petunias, really, they're not worth keeping. Fuchsias, you can, again, do the same thing, bring them indoors or keep them somewhere because they often will carry on. There are hardy fuchsias, but most of them we use for bedding are not. So that's another job. So once you have taken out everything from your summer containers, well, you want to plant them up with the spring bulbs. And there's an image there which shows you the lasagna style, as people call it now, which is a layered style of putting in different bulbs. And you basically put the largest ones at the bottom of the pot. This is all in multi-purpose compost, peat-free, which is the best one to have. Cover it up with a bit of compost, put in the next size down, which might be tulips, cover that up, put another layer of smaller ones like crocuses or grape hyacinths or something like that. So you've got a layer of bulbs, which are going to come at slightly different times, but don't worry, the stems find their way through, so you don't need to worry about them getting, stopped on top of each other. And then you can finish off that pot with some nice winter pansies, which you can see the image up there, or some polyanthus, which are very good at growing on. It also helps stop squirrels. If you don't want to put plants on top, and you do have squirrels where you are, it's a good idea to put something like chicken wire over the top, because otherwise they'll dig the bulbs up. In more detail, there's a trellis YouTube called Bulb Lasagna 2023, and there's also another one with spring flowering plants as well. So have a look at that in more detail. But obviously, we love to see bulbs in the spring.